Why is the author of the opinion that Tuan's ideal conversation model does not abide by the theoretical approach? Now, while Tuan's ideal conversation model and the theoretical approach have both been mentioned in the passage, elsewhere, we find the reference to this in the last paragraph. Let's see why. But this phenomenology, if that is what it is not only a philosophy, it is also philosophical anthropology. One of the most persistent motives in Tuan's writing is an appeal to common sense and common experience, to a we whose inclusive address presumes a shared human condition to which we have access without theoretical mediation. So we find that Tuan, as such, his his ideology or his phenomenology, as the passage mentions it, it has access without theoretical mediations. We see another reference to this. His humanistic geography is, in essence, a moral aesthetic discourse. It is contemplative, at once reflective and speculative, and yet, despite the model of ideal conversation, at best studiously indifferent to hit wider conversations that might be made possible through the theoretical. So it is indifferent to the conversation that might be made possible through the theoretical, which means, despite the model of ideal conversation. So this means that Tuan's model of ideal conversation is opposed to, or it doesn't concern itself with, the theoretical approach. Let's look at the options. As Tuan's humanistic geography is, in essence, a moral aesthetic discourse. Now we see moral aesthetic discourse mentioned here, but this is not a point of difference. His humanistic geography is, in essence, a moral aesthetic discourse. It is contemplative, at once reflective and speculative, and yet we are introduced to the difference between the model of ideal conversation and the theoretical. So this is true according to the passage, but it doesn't answer the question, doesn't address the question even. So A is irrelevant. It is outside the premise of the question. B says, as it is very pragmatic and down to earth in approach. True. We see that one, the mention is here, an appeal to common sense and common experience, to a we whose inclusive address presumes a shared human condition which is pragmatic, common sense and common experience which is down to earth, also pragmatic, which we have access without theoretical mediation. Also, we find that his humanistic geography, which is close to humans, close to humankind, that is what we see here, a shared human condition, that is moral aesthetic discourse, contemplative, reflective, all of that. But despite the model of ideal conversation, at best studiously indifferent to hit wider conversations that might be made possible through the theoretical. So it is indifferent to the theoretical. Why? Because it is pragmatic and down to earth. Hence, B is a valid choice. We can qualify it. Option C tells us, as it is at once contemplative, reflective, and speculative. This is the same as option A. These factors are mentioned here, but the point of difference is here in this statement and here in the last statement. What we have here in between, this one, it doesn't give us, till this point, till speculative and the comma, it doesn't give us the point of difference between Tuan's ideal conversation model and the theoretical approach. So once again, this does not answer the question. It may be true according to the passage, but it doesn't address the question. So C is also irrelevant. Option D says, as it is a type of philosophical anthropology. Same old, the same as options A and C. It is also philosophical anthropology. We've already marked the points of difference, why the ideal conversation model does not abide by the theoretical. This is outside of that premise. This is outside of those areas. So this is also irrelevant. We can eliminate D. The correct answer is option B.